Your network is your net worth. And they say most likely your income and your outcome are going to be very closely aligned with the 5 people you're closest to. So we are social creatures by nature. We live in communities. Choose a good community to surround yourself with. Be with people who are going to push you and empower you. Get off your phone. Get out from behind your computer, engage with people. That is where things happen.
Welcome to the Boise REIN Show, your destination for creating wealth through connections in real estate and business. Are you looking to become a real estate professional? Do you want to start your own successful real estate business? Well, I'm your host, Matt Osojnicki. Join us as we learn from the brightest minds, industry leaders, and experienced professionals, equipping you with the knowledge and confidence needed to make informed decisions and thrive in the ever-changing real estate landscape. Your journey starts now. Welcome back to the Boise REIN Show. I'm your host, Matt Osojnicki, and today we've got the visionary entrepreneur, Paul Anderson, with us today. He is with Vertical Funding Capital. He's a mortgage lender, a commercial lender, but more importantly, he has a mission to transform real estate into tangible wealth for everybody here in the Valley and beyond. He is very passionate about education and, making sure you have the right system set up and really just giving back to your community. And for that, we couldn't be more thankful to have you with us today, Paul. If you wouldn't mind, get the audience up to speed a little bit about who you are, where you came from, and what you're doing today.
Absolutely. Matt, thanks for the opportunity. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Paul Anderson. I'm an Idaho native, so born and raised downtown in Boise, and spent the majority of my life in Boise, moved out to Eagle about a decade ago and started living out there, loving it. And then most recently, I've been in Meridian the last couple of years. So being in and around real estate, it's always good to kind of live in some of the different areas and get a good feel for the Valley. But as you know, this is the place to be right now.
I could not be more excited to be living in Boise than any other time in the past. And we've gone through our ups and downs, and I haven't been here as long as most people have, but I've went through COVID and seen the transformation around the country, and Boise is just a fun place to be.
We're pretty resilient, and I'm probably biased having grown up here, but as we had talked about, the amount of opportunity that is happening in the Treasure Valley right now for somebody who's been here their whole life and seen kind of this steady, methodical growth pattern, to see what we're seeing now, both the commercial and the residential side and everything that's coming, it's a little mind-blowing, to be honest with you. It's a lot.
It is. What are you most excited about seeing all these things diverge? I mean, I know you have a lot of experience and lived here for a while, but what is it that comes to mind?
I look at it and I look around and I see all the people, and maybe it's just because I've come to that point in my life, but all I see is opportunity. I'm going to leave here today and I'm going to get on the interstate. And if I head back towards Boise Meridian, there's opportunity everywhere. If you go east out towards Micron, we know there's opportunity and growth out there. And, and it's not just growth for the sake of growth. I think we've done a good job managing our growth here, especially when you look at other parts of the country. But there's so much opportunity going on right now. The cool part is we all have access to that opportunity. It's what are you going to do with it?
Sure.
Where do you find your spot? Where do you fit into this abundance of opportunity that exists here right now?
I want to dig a little deeper into that opportunity. What specifically do you see going on here in the Valley? Is it opportunity for general contractors? Is it opportunity for employment? Is it opportunity for building businesses, for real estate, for syndications? What can you pinpoint it down a little bit?
The short answer is yes.
Okay.
And fortunately, I do a ton of networking. I talk to a lot of people. So let's start with general contractors.
Okay.
You look at what's going on in the Valley right now and what's getting ready to happen. We are short so many people. They are bringing in labor from everywhere, more so on the commercial side than the residential side. But we have a labor shortage right now. And now we're scrambling to try to get people up to speed and get them to where they need to be. So yes, general contractors, tremendous opportunity. I mean, just drive up and down this road. You've got general contractors working everywhere. On the job side, absolutely, because with all this growth, we're going to need people. So I think that is huge. On the real estate side, I think real estate's such an interesting thing because, and I hope nobody takes this the wrong way, but the barrier to entry to real estate can be too low at sometimes. But there's so much opportunity there for the people that put in the work, develop the systems, develop the networks, and they do great things with. And then on the investment side, there's a lot of opportunity there. Everything from mobile homes to single family homes. We've got multifamilies going strong. Commercial, industrial is crazy right now. They can't build it fast enough. Office space is going up. I mean, look at everything that's happening along the interstate in that corridor from 84 and Eagle down to 10 Mile now. That whole area is going to explode. And, there's that talk of that new, basically a second type village development that's going to go in out there at 84 and 10 Mile. So many things happening right now. And you mentioned real estate syndication, which we're starting to see more of here in the Valley. And that is such an awesome opportunity for people.
Yeah, I've heard more syndicators wanting to come in and are wondering what some of the opportunities that we have here are presented here.
Yeah, and so for somebody who's been around this my whole entire life, I mean, my dad was in real estate. I've been around it since I was young. If you would have asked me 5 years ago, let's talk about syndication, I would have been like, what is syndication? I don't know anything about syndication. Now it's a buzzword here, but it's been happening in other parts of the country for 20 plus years. So like a lot of other things, the Valley's lagging. But now syndication, I think, is such a powerful tool for people that want to invest and don't have enough capital to go out and buy a multifamily building or even a single family home. This gets them in the real estate game, and they can enter on a couple different levels and allows them to get a taste for real estate and usually work with a group of people, because a syndication is collaborative. So I think that is so important. And I know we'll talk about that later, but the ability to be part of a group of people who know more than you do. So if you're starting out in real estate, that's so important. And like I said, we will talk about that later, but it's going to be huge here in the Valley. And now we're starting to see a lot of interest from outside wanting to come in and start syndicating deals here as well. So it's coming.
Yeah, if you the saying goes, if you want to go quick, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Yeah.
And bringing that community together, just like syndications, has never been a better opportunity than it has right now. And that goes with this community of Boise REIN as well, or any other community across the country. But here specifically, what I love about the community we've built is that, like what you were saying earlier, you have people who are good at different parts of real estate, who are passionate about, a certain facet, whether they love running numbers, or for me, for example, I love short-term rentals, or if they're good at syndications or raising capital, or if they love cold calling. Like, you get a few, high-performing people in a group together. There's no telling what you can do here in the Valley.
Absolutely. Well, that goes for any industry. You've got to have a team. So if you have people who have those skill sets that you just mentioned, and you can find a way to bring them together and mesh as a team and collaborate, you can do a lot of great things. And we're seeing more of that. You mentioned Boise REIN. That's why we're here. That's what brought us together. And we talked about how in such a short period of time, that has become such a powerful community here locally and provides tremendous resource. So I can't speak highly enough about it. It's why we're here today. I'm seeing it all over the place. So obviously the word is getting out, and it has a very, there's just that great sense of community, and everybody's willing to give and help. And that is not always the case. So I think from that perspective, they have done a phenomenal job, and I'm looking forward to seeing their growth.
Same. Give and help. I like that, because what I've noticed is everybody thinks it takes money to get involved in real estate. Well, I need to save. I need to raise tens of thousands of dollars on my own just to get started in real estate. With a community like this, you don't. You just partner with people, help people out. You can find ways to work with others, help them on what they need help on. They'll help you in return. You'll build something together.
Absolutely. I have a meeting today, and it is exactly about that. It's not about bringing the capital to the deal, but it's about bringing their skill and expertise and knowledge in exchange for some of that. So there's a lot of different ways that you can go about this. And that's one of the great things with all this expansive growth. The opportunities are abundant. So, I know we've talked about it, but there's so much more coming. We just have to have our eyes open and be able to identify an opportunity, or be able to step outside and ask somebody. And that's the other thing. And, we'll talk about mentorship later,
Sure.
But I think that's so vital.
You said there's a lot more coming, and I know you're the money guy, and usually the the guys that see where the money is going,
Right.
have a tendency to know what's coming into the valley or what's leaving or what's strengths are, what some of its weaknesses are. What do you see coming to the valley that's providing this growth?
So I think you mentioned before, you've been here since 2019.
Yep.
You went through COVID. And COVID was obviously, it was a very traumatic experience for a lot of people. If you step aside from that for just a moment, here in the Treasure Valley, COVID was a boom time for us. It was like a gold rush to Idaho. We saw so many people come here, so many businesses start looking at Idaho, and that has only continued, and it's continuing to perpetuate to this day. So, I've seen recently developments that are going out, northwest, like Star, Middleton area, parts of Eagle. If there's available ground, it's being developed and it's going to be built on over the next 10 to 15 years.
Can you talk about some of the developments that are going on out here for some of the people that may not know? Because I imagine, for example, let's use Micron, for example.
Okay.
Maybe not a lot of people know that they got a big grant from the government to build, I'm pretty sure, the biggest chip facility in the United States.
That's
here
my
in Boise.
understanding. Yeah. That is my understanding, that it is, if not the largest, one of the largest. And again, here's the power of networking. There's a gentleman in Boise REIN who I met who helped negotiate the union contract for that. He relocated here to the valley for that. And I was having lunch with him 2 weeks ago, and we were talking about this because I've actually helped some people I know their kids get placed. And so they can take advantage of some of the great jobs that they're creating out there. But he was telling me they're going to be 2,000 electricians short. They're short on crane operators. They're short on so many things right now. So they're going to have to go out and import that labor here into the valley. And that's where it comes back to having good education and good programs. So that opportunity, if you're a young person right now and you're wanting to learn more about the trades and construction, there's tremendous opportunity right there. And I know I'm a little bit biased because that is my world, but I look at it, and so often, and I'm going to kind of pivot here, but in the residential real estate world, one of the biggest hurdles that we have to overcome is student debt. So there's a lot of people that will come in, they've worked hard, they've gone to school for 4 years, and they've got 6 figures in student debt, and the jobs that are available here in the market don't allow them to satisfy their student debt, let alone start a family, buy a home, follow what is the typical American dream. You look at the trade side of that for people that are willing to do it. I mean, with this Micron project, it's a union project. They're going to set up Union Hall here. They're going to be doing some things where they will train these kids all the way through at no cost to them. A lot of young people are going out to CUNA or Meridian to the lineman school, and they're spending a fraction of what they would on a college degree to leave with a high 5 or low 6-figure a year job and not be burdened by that student debt. And the other thing is, Matt, with all this growth, we need it. A lot of the guys are aging out of the trades, so we need fresh, new people in there to help replace them.
Yeah, I truly feel, I think Mike Rowe said this, but the blue collar jobs are going to become the white collar jobs. They're going to be the new sexy thing to look at because, you can start successful businesses and grow generational wealth from your family and, help out your community, help grow your community. What's better than that?
Right. And that's the other thing too. My hope is, having been here my whole life, and I used to say this a lot in real estate and mortgage, Idaho is an amazing place to live. Boise is a beautiful place to live, but it's a hard place to make a living. Just because wages typically haven't been high. We have been able to create a lot of service sector jobs, retail jobs, things of that nature, but we haven't had large major corporations come in here and set down an anchor here where you get what we would consider household formation jobs. So now with these projects that are going on and what they're paying, it's going to really dramatically change the economics of the Treasure Valley, which is great. And I'm a big believer. I mean, that money is going to go somewhere. If it's going to go somewhere, you want it in your community. You want those dollars circulating in and out of your community.
Yeah. Can you
Can you tell us a little more about other companies or other major corporations that have come into the Valley? Because I know we've had Amazon here for a couple of years now. We know that Meta is for sure building a server center, which will take a lot of skilled labor to build it, but I know it's only like in the tens as far as how many people are going to be employed there. What do you know of any other major corporations like Tesla that are either here or coming?
Tesla is building here. They're building over in Meridian, so they've got a lot going on. There is a big project here in town, and every general contractor you talk to, they call it a whale. It's huge. So it's supposed to be over 1 million square foot facility here, but nobody can say who it is. So everybody's on non-disclosures. But if you think about it, it's only a few people that can really pull that off, or a few corporations. So that is another huge thing. On the development side, we're starting to see a lot of companies that typically would not have come in to the Treasure Valley because we didn't meet the population demographics. In-N-Out's a good example. We couldn't get an In-N-Out for years because our population wouldn't support it, and it didn't meet their population demographics. Now, in the next 2 years, we're supposed to have 5 of them.
I saw that.
More traffic. That's awesome. But and obviously that's not necessarily the types of jobs we want. But you're going to see a lot more. I think you're going to see a lot more companies exiting where they're from to come here. I mean, our economic climate's really good. So we've known for years that power is cheap. We have access to resources very cheap for companies, especially compared to other parts of the country. And that's why, if you're a small business or even a large business, Texas is getting a lot of that right now. And that seems to be waning a little bit for them from the people I'm talking to. Now we're starting to see more people come this way. So I think it's so imperative for us to be able to get our people educated and trained and have a skilled workforce to attract these companies, so that we can get those good household formation companies to come up here and anchor and build facilities and settle down in Idaho.
Yeah, let's talk a little more on the education side, because I know you're a big proponent of that as well. You mentioned, CWI's out here, College of Western Idaho, the Lineman's College, obviously. What does it look like to grow that education space in Idaho? What do we need? Because earlier you had mentioned Oracle and...
we've lost a lot of stuff to it over the years. So and hopefully those are expensive learning lessons. Let's hope that we've learned the lesson. What I've seen, and this is just through my lens, but it seems like over the last couple of years, and maybe COVID was partially a driver in this, but the governor and the state house is committing more towards educational resources, and not necessarily just 4-year, institutions of higher learning, not just university learning, but putting more programs into CWI, which are more affordable for a lot of the lower income people, and great ways for young kids to get started in college who want to knock out an associate's degree and don't want to rack up the tremendous student debt. So I think those are some great opportunities. The Lineman College, there's a couple other proposed things going on right now that will service more on the infrastructure side. So there's talks of some schools there, because if you think about it, we're having all this massive growth and here's all this tremendous opportunity. And if we think traffic's bad now, it's only going to get worse. So I think the ability for people in public works is going to be massive, because we're going to need massive infrastructure development and overhaul to support all these people. So I think for young people, that's going to be huge. And there's a lot of talk about some people wanting to put together some education around being able to help support those trades. I do know what I've been told on the union project, or on the Micron project, the union that's here can service about 14 different trades, and they would like to open up a trade school here, which is funded by the union, and union dues go to pay into that. So the students or the apprentices going through that, they don't have an out-of-pocket cost for that. They get on-the-job education, and they don't have to pay for it, and they come out of it with a union card. So, and union's a mixed bag in Idaho. You're either for it or against it. But if we can get people educated and get them into the workforce and not saddle them with so much debt starting life, you're just starting in life, you're excited to launch a career, and you've got this anchor around you. So if there's opportunities there for that, I'm all for that.
A little more insider knowledge for everybody listening. This information's 2 years old, but back when I was in the military, we would take VIPs around our training sites out by Mountain Home. Okay. And they would look at potential development opportunity. And I know that, again, this information is 2 years old, but Idaho is looked at to be one of the biggest drivers for building up our military as well, out in Mountain Home and out in the Orchard Training Center,
Okay.
the OCTC. So not only do we have great development here, but like the military is also looking at Idaho as being one of the leading training sites in the country as well.
Well, I had not heard that, and that's interesting.
Yeah.
I know, like other parts of the state over in Idaho Falls, where we've seen like the Federal Bureau of Investigation has built a huge facility over there and brought great jobs. So those are always good. Government jobs, they bring great wages, great benefits, and they add a lot to the community. So that's great. And we've got you want to talk about between here and Mountain Home, there's so much space to work with out there.
Yeah.
That would be great. Obviously now you hear that there's the casino that's coming to Mountain Home, and there's been a lot of speculation about when that will actually happen. But we do know that they're going to have a huge need for workforce housing over there. So there will be opportunities in construction over there, infrastructure over there. So, all this growth brings so many opportunities. And like I said from the very beginning, being from here, Matt, it's mind-boggling. I mean, if you haven't had a chance, just run 15 minutes out to Micron and just sit out there and look at what is going on in the size of it. It's
massive.
Oh yeah,
the cranes out there. It's wild.
Yeah, and so they've got the last conversation. They need 41 cranes out there running, and they've only got like 13 or 14 right now because they can't get it. They can't get them because that tells me overall the economy must be doing pretty good. Cranes are usually a good sign that things are going well. So you look at downtown Boise. A lot of cranes, a lot of projects going up there. I mean, everybody will say, yeah, look at downtown Boise because you can't drive anywhere. You got to walk, but that will change. But so much development and growth down there as well. I mean,
do you see the residential side building up out there by Micron as well? Because right now there's not a lot of communities and residentials out there. Why is that?
I do see it coming, and you're starting to see a little bit more. That's really tough to develop out there. Just like a lot of parts of Kuna and southwestern Idaho around here, there's a lot of lava to deal with. And so depending on the type of lava, that can really inhibit your development, your ability to develop and bring services. So we've experienced this before when, during the last run up in 2007, 2008, when they were going to develop out by Blacks Creek and stuff like that. And fortunate or unfortunate, the economic meltdown kind of brought that to an end. But the talk the whole time was how to bring services. So I think that's an obstacle that is huge that they're going to have to figure out how to overcome to develop more. But we will.
Services like utilities, water, power.
Yeah, to be able to get those, because if you've got the blue lava, as I've been told, that is just lava rock. And you either have to blast it or cut it. Both which are time consuming and expensive. So they add a lot to your development costs. Now, if you have that red pumice stuff, that sounds like that's really easy to work through. But there's patches of both. And then there's some areas that I've been told that are almost exclusively that blue lava. And so they really have a hard time working through that. So it adds a tremendous amount of cost and time to your development. And what does that do to the affordability of your project?
At some point, there's going to be too many people in Boise where we're going to be forced to go out there anyway, right?
Either that or we will take a page from Boise's revised building code and we'll go up.
I love that.
If you can't go out, you got to go up.
What's that building they're building right now downtown? It's supposed to be the tallest building in Idaho?
There's a couple. The one that I'm most impressed with is the great big glass building downtown.
Yes,
the Arthur.
One.
Arthur.
Yeah,
that's a local development. So those people are local. Matter of fact, I mean, Boise's so small that the gentleman who's developing that grew up 2 doors or 3 doors down from my mom.
No way.
They all know each other. Yeah, Boise natives, and that's a luxury apartment development, and it's massive.
Massive.
Yeah, this big mirror in the middle of downtown Boise. So, I mean, Boise's growing up.
Yeah.
You're seeing a lot more condo living downtown now. Wherever you can find space, they're either rebuilding, building, they're doing something to bring housing here. And, Boise recognized this a while ago, and then they passed the code. We've kind of, geographically, they're locked. So we need more housing for our people. we've got to go up.
Yeah.
So it's, it's going to be vertical. Horizontal, they've kind of run their course. So yeah, the only way I can see that they really support that is higher density.
Sure.
And there's still a lot of opportunity for that. I know everybody is freaking out because we've got all these apartments and everything being built and condos and townhomes. But from everything we can see, the absorption rates are really good. So there will be a need for more. Those will fill up. Like I said, what that does to infrastructure and roads, that's what will be interesting.
Yeah. And I like the new ADU regulation they just came out with too. That's going to create more opportunity for people to get in.
That's huge. That really, too, if you look at that on a greater level, I mean, we are an aging populace.
Yes.
Seniors, we have more people age over in, I think, what is it? Nationally, I want to say it's like 8,000 or 10,000 people a day turn 65. And as we age and as you get older, your need for services, medical services increase. We can't build facilities fast enough. You can't build enough assisted living facilities and nursing homes. And most people don't want to go there anyway. So the ADUs are a great way for you to have a multi-generational house, and so we're seeing a lot of people who are building those because mom or dad, they're getting to that point that they need additional care. They can be close, yet still have some independence, but they can walk across the yard and see the grandkids anytime they want. So there's some really neat upside to the ADUs.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, let's switch gears a little bit and talk more about single family houses, residential homes.
Okay.
And earlier we had talked about, the kind of your 5 levels of investing, or at least how you climb that ladder. And I know there could be minutia in between, but
Sure.
You had mentioned 5 for those getting started, or maybe you're in the middle of the rung, or maybe you're at the later tier. Would you mind if we jumped into some of those?
Absolutely.
So the 5 you mentioned was, getting started, obviously the best place, and how I got started, and probably most people, was single family housing,
Right.
Especially if you can get, an owner occupied, you buy the home, you live in it, and then you move out and you rent it. Like, easy way to get started in real estate investing, right? Number 2, you have multifamily apartments. Number 3, commercial real estate. Number 4, real estate syndications. And then finally 5, building generational wealth.
Right.
So let's talk about these a little bit. So number 1, single family residence. How can people get in? What are some strategies that you found that have been easy to follow? Or
there's so many options available. And I know we talk about costs, but on the mortgage side, we still have great programs around here. If you want to live out near CUNA, there's RD financing, which is 100%. If you're military, such as yourself, you've got access. If you've got your VA entitlement, again, that's 100% loan. And ironically, most people talk about the zero down loans. Most people don't realize the VA loan portfolio is the best performing loan portfolio out there. You can still go in and you can buy a home with as little as 3 or 3.5% down. If we utilize Idaho Housing, they will give you all but 0.5%. So we've helped people get into $400,000 homes with $2,000 of their own money. So there are options there. And to your point, that methodology of I'm going to buy a home, I'm going to live in it. Most loan programs, conventional and government, require an occupancy of a year and a day. And then you can go and you can turn that into an investment property and you can go get a loan to buy a new home. Today's economics make that a little bit more difficult with prices and interest rate being higher, but it's still very much a possibility. And I've seen people do that. They would stay for, a year or two, 1 for the occupancy status, 2 for the long-term capital gains. And then when that time came, they would convert that into an investment property and they would go buy another home, and you can use 75% of the income you would get from that rental to help offset the payment on the current home and qualify for the new home. So there's a pathway for that. Multifamily, you can do it a couple ways. If I were young and starting out over again, I would have probably started with a duplex. Because again, same thing applies. You can go get a loan for a duplex, use FHA financing and get 3.5% down and lease out the other side, and you get an owner occupied interest rate. So, that is huge. So for people starting out, that is a great pathway. It creates some income on the other side. It teaches you about property management, rentals if you don't use a company, and it allows you to take advantage and leverage a mortgage. So you've worked a couple different places. You've had probably a 401k or an IRA that you've contributed to. You put that money in every month. Can you borrow against it?
Depending, but most likely not.
Yeah, and if you do, basically you're borrowing your own money at a fee.
Yes,
so
at a fee.
You will pay yourself back interest. I look at the ability to leverage through using real estate as huge. I mean, what other type of a vehicle can you use? And let's just go with an investment property. You come in and you put 20% down, and there's a loan program designed to get you the other 80%. And you get to capture all the income and you just have to service the debt. What else can you leverage at 80%? There's not a lot, not that I can think of. If there is, then somebody's doing something great and none of us know about it and they probably kept it to themselves. But with real estate, you can do that. Again, what else can you go into, buy, live in for a year, turn around, rent it, and go buy another one and put 3.5%, 5% down and utilize that leverage to be able to start growing your real estate portfolio and your income. And, if you listen statistically, the majority, it used to be, I'm older, so it used to be millionaire was a big thing. Now it's billionaire. But the majority of millionaires and billionaires have made a lion's share of their wealth in real estate. Then you get into commercial. Commercial is a completely different animal.
I want to go back to the multifamily real quick.
Okay.
Because I personally saw this as well. When we first bought our duplex, with housing the way it is these days, with interest rates the way that they are, housing is expensive. But if you need a place to live, which most people didn't do, and you want to go down this real estate investing journey, it's a great place to get started because even though you're not getting your mortgage paid for, you're reducing your cost of living.
Right.
And it can be more about saving money per month rather than how do I make more money per month.
Right.
And the savings can be huge and add up because that savings that you're making can start building a bank account for you to buy your next house or project.
Right.
So I think that's a huge way to leverage multifamily.
Multifamily is cool. I had a client years ago. He has since passed, but he was a veteran, and he would about every year and a half he would go buy a fourplex. So he would use his VA entitlement. He would get 100% financing. He would live in one of the units, and he would lease the other 3 out. Now, when he found another fourplex, you can only typically have one VA loan at a time. We would refinance the one he was living in, put it into a conventional loan for an investment property. And at that point in time, we were getting enough market appreciation. And then he would go buy another fourplex. Fourplexes were his thing. By the time he was done, he had 14 fourplexes. Wow. So if you think about that, that's, 64 doors?
Yeah.
Working for you.
Yeah.
And he had zero down. I mean, it's like he had it figured out and dialed in, and he did phenomenal. And he left. And the ironic thing, he was single. He had no kids. He donated his estate to a local charity.
Wow.
Yeah.
This show would not be possible without the support from our local community. Because of you, we're able to share information from leading professionals like never before. That's why our sponsors at Boise Turnkey Investments and Your Stay B&B have teamed up with the Boise REIN Show. Whether you're just starting out or you're a seasoned pro, they help bring you all the insider information to get you started on your journey today. Back to the show.
That just goes to show you, because he had a full-time job.
Yeah.
But it can be that easy. He was able to grow community. He provided housing for a lot of people who needed it. And he did well for himself and others and gave it all back when he was done. That's
his full-time job, ironically, after he left the military, was at the charity.
Really?
Yeah. So he's a great guy. Smart, super smart, but a great heart.
Yeah. I love it. Okay. Going up from number 2 to number 3, the commercial side.
Yeah. So
what's different about that?
Commercial is different. So there's so many different avenues with commercial. You can be into retail. I mean, you can be into strip malls, big malls, retail, industrial, office space, flex space. There's a lot of different things inside of commercial, and that's just to name a few. And the options are different. So, and we'll talk about this a little bit more in syndication, but there's different ways to buy into commercial. But, the financing on commercial can be entirely different too. So backpedaling a little bit, you want to buy a single family or you want to buy a multifamily home and you want to live in it, we're going to do it in your name. You're going to personally guarantee that. If you're not going to live in it or you're going to do commercial, we have the ability to finance it in an LLC or a business entity, so it's non-recourse and you don't have the personal guarantee. So that's one of the differences. Commercial is so much more different than residential in the fact of how do you qualify for the property. We will look at your credit. Credit is a thing. Your income, we're not looking at debt to income ratio so much. We're looking at what we call debt service coverage ratio, or DSCR. You'll see DSCR loans everywhere, and you're seeing them in residential now. Everybody's like, this is the newest, greatest thing. This has been around forever. And it's really how lending on commercial buildings and commercial property is predicated. It's on the debt service coverage ratio. They want to make sure, the lender wants to make sure that has positive cash flow. So like on a lot of them, when things were really hot during COVID and rates were really low, we saw the debt service coverage ratios get down to like what we would call a 1-to-1 ratio. So let's say you're going to buy a $400,000 building and your monthly debt servicing on it. So principal, interest, taxes, insurance, any associated dues, if it was in a park or anything like that, was $5,000 a month. On a 1-to-1 ratio, you just have to show that it's bringing in $5,000 a month in income, 1-to-1. That's since changed. Typically we're seeing a 1.15 to 1.25% ratio, but that's what they're looking at. They're not going, well, Matt, you're self-employed and you write all this off and you really don't show any income on your taxes, so we can't lend to you. They're really more concerned about how the property produces cash and how it functions in that respect. So commercial is different in that way. And that's where commercial is great for people who may have access to some capital or know somebody who has access to some capital, but they're not necessarily a high earner themselves. You do have a down payment requirement. With SBA, you can get into it. That's a government-backed loan. You can get into that with 5 to 10% down. Most of your standard stuff, if you decide not to go SBA, is 20% down, just like an investment property. But yeah, the methodology that they use to qualify for that is different, and they're just a different animal altogether. You're usually dealing with different types of leases, different income structures. There's a lot of different ways that leases are calculated for commercial. And if we had an hour, we could go into the different types of leases. But so it is a different beast, and it's more passive. Typically, unless you're an owner operator with commercial, there's some sort of a leasing agent or a property manager who handles a lot of the details for you. So commercial is really great for busy professionals. So you will see a lot of people, a lot of white collar people, attorneys, doctors, dentists, that invest in commercial because they are high net worth earners and they have a job and they're really good at it and they make a lot of money at it. But they want to take all that money that they're making, they want to put it to work for them in more of a passive fashion. And that's where commercial can be really beneficial for people in that area.
What would be a typical passive investment for a high income earner who wants to go to commercial here in the Valley?
Right now, and so here's the other side of that a little bit. Lending has changed a little bit too. So COVID changed commercial real estate quite a bit. We had the work from home, and you're still seeing companies struggle to get employees back in the office. So there's a fair amount of lenders that aren't really doing a lot with office space. Especially depending on what class, if it's like a class A, B, or C, depending on the class of the building, you'll see lenders that either have the appetite for it or they don't. Retail is really tough right now just because retail, like storefronts, we're seeing it here. A lot of storefronts over the last 3 to 5 years have shut down.
They're all online now.
Amazon, you can get,
yeah.
You tell me what you can't get on Amazon. It's just easier that way. So retail's a little bit tough, but like right now here where we're at, industrial space, all day long, every day, because we don't have enough of it. What we call flex space, which is kind of a combination of, you'll see them popping up along the interstate. You're seeing a lot more of them over in Meridian, where they've got a couple of huge bay doors. So they've got the warehouse space, and then it's got some office with it kind of combined. So if you're a solopreneur or a small business, you have a place where you can put your equipment and put your vehicles, and then you have an office space over off to the side that you can work. Flex is really huge right now as well. Multifamily, which falls under commercial, if you can find the ground,
right?
it's moving right now. So those are some great opportunities. Like I said, retail is tough. Matter of fact, I have a list of lenders, and unlike residential lending where you have to lend, commercial you don't. There are lenders out there who are very exclusionary. Right now, some of the more troubled areas, like a Seattle or a Portland, they're not lending in just because of some of the chaos that happens to the collateral over there. I mean, you don't want to lend on a building and have it destroyed. So they very much can say, you know what, that's a market we choose not to operate in, and that's their prerogative. So commercial is much different in that way.
How do you go about finding commercial deals to begin with?
I think like everything else, you network. There's so much, there are online resources, but either they're inaccurate or they're expensive. Use your network, get into people. And there are some tremendous commercial agents here in the Valley, and commercial agents know what's going on too. They're usually a little bit more in tune to some of the development, the companies that are coming in, what they're doing. But yeah, use a network of people, especially like you're talking about. Now, if you're that high net worth person, that high income earner, you don't have the time, and it's not the best use of your time. So leverage, network. There's a lot of commercial networking groups. Get in with the people who are doing it every day. They know where stuff's at. They know where things are coming. They know when stuff comes available. Sometimes business brokers will have access to commercial real estate or a business that's being sold with a building. So there's some avenues there, but typically I would say your best bet is to align with commercial realtors and commercial agents. They know what's going on.
I love that. All right. So moving up another step from that, we're going to get into number 4, the syndication side.
Okay.
Much more passive. Can be.
Yeah, it can be. Syndication, that's one of those things, like we talked about before. If you would have said 5 years ago, say, let's do a syndication. Matt, what's a syndication? And then I've been learning a lot more about it over the last couple of years. I'm involved with it now. And I'm going to other parts of the country and looking at syndications. I'm seeing this is just standard business for them. They've been doing it there for 20 years. And they're also starting to discover Boise. So we will see a lot more of this coming in. Syndication to me can be such a powerful tool because you've got different levels. So you can invest as a limited partner or a general partner. Most syndications, I guess I should back up a little bit and preface it. You have to have a couple things on a syndication typically because they're an SEC, they're a registered SEC investment instrument. So you either have to be what's considered an accredited or a sophisticated investor. And I'm actually going to be teaching a class on that upcoming, so I'll save some of that. But with that in mind, if you meet some of those criteria, then you can come in at different levels. So you can come in as a limited partner, meaning that you make a financial contribution towards the syndication, and then that whoever's doing the syndication, they'll put together a summary, and they're going to tell you what you get an internal rate of return, you get a little bit of cash flow while it's up and running, and then the goal is to sell it at the end, and then you get a percentage of the sale. A general partner, they're more active and hands-on in the deal, and they typically have more experience. I think just from a beginner standpoint in syndication, the great thing I see about it is it's collaborative. So you've got different people with different skill sets doing things within that. And most of the time they want to educate the limited partners because they want them to reinvest, and there's a couple syndications going on here in town right now where you can get in for $50,000 and great rates of return. I'm not going to name specific, but phenomenal rates of return and probably better than you're getting, unfortunately, in single family right now. Single family, you can't, $50,000 is not going to get you into single family investment property right now. It's not going to meet the down payment requirements. And also it single family, single or multifamily. If you don't hire a property management company, you can create yourself another job. I mean, I'm sure you've experienced some of that on the short-term rental side. There's times
very active.
Yeah, very much so. With the syndication, you're entrusting your money with other people to do what they do. And, if that is a lot of syndication is going in and buying an existing property that's below market value and it's underperforming, and then you make improvements to it. So you'll see the most common example you'll see in what you're seeing right now is if you Google syndication, you're going to see people out there. They're going in and they're buying, for example, they'll buy a 100-unit apartment complex and they're getting a great deal on the apartment, but it's 7 or 8 years old. It needs updated. It needs new appliances.
The rents haven't been raised.
Everything is a little bit dilapidated.
Yep.
They will go in and they'll do it in 4 phases. So 100 units, they'll do 25 at a time. They'll let those leases expire. They'll go in, they'll renovate, they'll remodel those, and then they'll release them, or they'll lease them again at current market rates, bringing up the value. So unlike when you're selling a home, residential, you go to sell your home, it's going to be based on comparable homes in the area. So Matt, you can do a tremendous amount of things to your home and you can pour a lot of money into it and it's where you live and you raise your family and you have a great time. You may not always get the value out of that. And same thing with single family rentals. It's still predicated on that appraisal value, and that appraisal is still based on comparable homes that have sold in the area. With commercial, it's much different. They're looking at the financials again. So they're looking at the cap rate or the capitalization rate. So when you go in and you buy a property at or below market value, and then you renovate it and you bring it up to current market, you bring the amenities up, and then you start leasing it at a higher rate, you've created tremendous value. I can speak about this specifically, and I'll put it in a really simple term so people can understand how it leverages. There's a gentleman here in town who built an apartment complex in Meridian, 180 doors. Did phenomenal on the land, and now his was vertical construction, so he took it all the way through entitlement development, built it. And he aligned with a property manager who taught him about something called RUBS. And what that is when you add value add things where you add utilities. So now you'll see a lot of apartments. They'll come with an internet package and a phone package, and they have that all built into your lease. Or, paid parking, all these things. They're maximizing it. But in his case, this property manager, he had no idea what RUBS were. This property manager showed him how to work with the local, I think, it was Cable One at the time. Now it's Sparklight, it's Cable One. They talked to Cable One. Cable One came in and basically lit that complex up with phone and internet for everybody. And they charged up, I think they added like $80 or $90 a month to their leases. When he went to go sell that added, if I remember correctly, almost $6 million in value because they were getting an extra $90 a month in rent on 180 units. So that's a value add. You come in and you take stuff and you get rid of vinyl flooring and shag carpet and, Formica countertops, and you bring in decent carpet and you bring in the vinyl laminate flooring and marble countertops or granite countertops and stainless steel appliances. And all of a sudden you get another $200, $250 a month out of that. Your value just adds, and you can't do that with single family. So that's syndication. The syndications that are going on here in the Valley right now are vertical construction. So they're being built out. So they're a little bit different in nature than what you'll see online. The cool thing is look at everything that's been built over the last couple of years and is being built now in 6, 7, 8 years. Those are going to be ideal for syndications because most owners kind of like to hold on to them until they start to get to that point that you have all this deferred maintenance. We don't want to have to go through and replace, 200 air conditioners and re-roof it and repaint it and re-side it and update everything because they wear and tear. So that's where you can come in and you can buy them usually at or below market. You make some money on the purchase. You come in phases, you renovate them, you build them back up, and then you put them back on the market at fair market value and you raise your rents. And now you've increased the value of that property. So much different than commercial.
Than
residential.
I did not want to cut you off at all because that was actually where I was going to go into is what's the biggest difference between residential and commercial, and residential with the comparable properties in the area. Like you can't force appreciation like you can in the commercial side, which is, in my opinion, one of the biggest differentiators in building wealth.
Right. Well, and anybody who's ever been through a couple transactions, appraisals can vary greatly.
From one appraiser to the other.
Correct. And there's really no way to rebut it. Once it's done, it's done. And so we've seen transactions where appraisals have either killed the deal altogether or they've required everybody to renegotiate and nobody's happy. But whereas with this, you're looking at financial data. And the other thing, it's easier to be able to say, you know what, give me your books, give me your what we call your T12. I want to see your rental and your operating and your income statement for the last 12 months and the last 3 months, and pardon me, help show that value to support that price opinion.
Yeah, 100%. Yep. But I will say you have to start somewhere. Yep. And just like we talked about these steps, 1, 2, 3, 4, and now 5. You're learning along the way.
Absolutely.
I do agree with some people out there that say, why not just skip to step 4? I think you can, especially with the community that we have. You find the right people to work with or a mentor like we can get into if you want to. But, finding the right people to work with may help you skip some steps. But if you want to have a good foundational knowledge of real estate and what you're best at and what you enjoy doing, going through each of these steps, I have found personally, because I've gone through each of them,
right,
has built my knowledge of real estate so much wider than it would have if I skipped some steps.
Yeah, I think, everybody's different. So I'm more of I had to break it to fix it type of guy.
Yeah.
So I had to go through and learned a lot of lessons and took some lumps along the way. I think no matter whether you start in mobile homes or you start in commercial syndication, mentorship. You're putting your money at risk for one thing. Find somebody that you know and you trust and will have your best interest at heart and work with them. Education is expensive and you can get it in several different ways. So I've been fortunate. I've always come into some, I do a lot of seminars and I do a lot of stuff, and I always tell people, I really truly want to be the dumbest person in the room because I'm there to learn from everybody. So keep an open mind, but seek mentorship. And that's where you have so many, and you have a lot of outlets for it. And it's probably not the guy selling courses online at midnight. It's somebody that you can talk to that's real, that's a human being. And we have a lot of local resources here, so you don't have to go far to get them. But somebody who they're invested in your success. And maybe that mentorship, maybe it is paid. But if they're bringing you results, it's worth it. But I think just trying to jump in head first. And the one thing I can say is, having grown up here and been around real estate, when's the last time you saw a real estate contract?
Like a PSA?
Yeah, well, an RE21 or a purchase and sales agreement.
Very recent.
Okay.
I used to be a realtor, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to show you exactly how old I am. And I found one of these after my dad passed away. Back in the 70s and 80s, the old purchase and sales agreement in Ada County, our RE21, was a single page, legal page, carbon, 3-copy, front and back. That was it. And it was double spaced and it was written on a legible font, so you didn't have to get out readers to see it. You look today, last time I checked, I think it's 9 pages. It's about 500 lines, and it's like a half font. It would take you half a day to read through it, and then you might not understand it. So where I'm going with that is real estate has gotten so much more complex, and there's tremendous ways to make money. Like we said before, most of the millionaires and billionaires, the lion's share of their wealth has come from real estate. But you can lose a lot of money too. So that's where I think it's so important to be surrounded by people that you trust and have your best interest at heart, but absolutely find a mentor. No, even mentors have mentors. Nobody knows everything. And if you've never done it before, align with somebody or partner with somebody. You see that a lot. And that's what I like about syndication is that collaboration. Hey, we're going to go take down a $7 million project. Who's got $7 million lying around? I've got 50,000 that I can put in, and I can learn from these people along the way. And know that my money's in good hands and it's being used in the right way. There's a lot of ways to get burned in real estate, and we've seen a lot of it. And I don't ever want to see that happen to somebody. So get in with people. Come to our Boise REIN meeting. And I'm not just I'll be honest, I go to 4 different real estate networking groups. All of them bring great value. But what has been created here in such a short period of time, that giving and caring spirit, go talk to those people because they will also talk you out of trouble. And, sometimes the best answer is no. No can be a gift. So it's getting around people who can analyze those deals and show you how to do it. And there's a lot of resources out there for that. And don't try to do it all on your own.
I agree. Don't do it all on your own because there's so many people who want to help.
Absolutely.
Who have been where you are today.
They'll save you a lot of time, money, and heartache.
Yeah. So let's get into number 5. Number 5 is kind of the reasons for 1 through 4.
Mm-hmm.
Building generational wealth.
Absolutely.
Why is that so important?
Well, I have a lot of friends who are financial planners, and they will, one of their biggest frustrations is people will come to them. They've been going to work. When I grew up, it was, you go to school, you go to college, you get a job, you work for 30 years, you get a pension, you get a gold watch, and you retire. That's done, dead, gone. It's not happening. So you see so many people that are still following that methodology. They're great people. They work hard. They get up every single day and they give their employer everything they've got. And they are probably invested in their company 401k, but they get to 50 or 55 and they want to retire in 10 or 15 years. And they realize I'm nowhere near that. So real estate to me creates a couple things. One, it creates, typically when done right, it creates positive cash flow. If you're set up and structured correctly, that can be passive. If you're not working in your properties all the time and not having to be reactive. And it can also create generational wealth. So I think you need to have multiple streams of income. And I'm not saying you put everything in real estate. Keep your W-2 job, put some money in the market, let the market do what's going to do. If you've been buying precious metals over the last couple of years, you're doing really good. Depending on when you bought your crypto, you were good when we started this podcast. I haven't checked for an hour.
Nice.
But real estate, here's the thing, and we've seen this ebbs and flows. Real estate, even when the value of your property goes down, as long as it stays tenanted and rents stay well and you bought it right the first time, the value of the asset can decline, but your cash flow stays positive and it can even increase through annual rental increases. So, and that's the thing when I'm talking to property owners, like, last couple of years when COVID hit and we had some things, the value of my property went down $100,000. Paul, what do? Call your insurance agent, let them know your replacement cost has gone down, get your policy re-rated, save some money on your insurance, look into getting an appraisal on it and go down to the county and fight for that and get your property taxes reduced if the county hasn't done it for you already. So, as scary as it can be to think that the value of your properties decline, there are areas, if you're going to hold it, where you can still make more money. My property taxes went down. My insurance will go down. My cash flow will remain the same or better. And then the thought is over time, it will come back. I mean, what have we heard for the last 2 years after COVID? The market was going to collapse. Well, it's not doing it here or not yet. So the market's still very strong, very robust. And this is a different market than we had last time. So we're still seeing property values increase. I mean, most of us just got our assessments in the mail the last couple of weeks and values were up. Now they're not explosive like they were, but stable and steady. If you could get, 5, 6, 7% over 10, 15, 20 years, you're going to come out the other side with a really good problem.
I've looked back to the 1950s to see the housing trends, and there's never been a 10-year time period where the housing has been worth less than it was 10 years ago.
Right.
It always increases. And naturally, because the economy is growing and we do have inflation, inflation is a natural occurrence. We're still going to print money and pump it into the market to grow the economy. And real estate is one of those waves that you can ride as those prices go up.
Well, and the tax side of it too, because here's the other thing. You can make wealth in a lot of areas and it becomes taxable very quickly. Real estate has so many tax advantages, and that's not my wheelhouse at all. I know enough that I need to call people when it comes time. But for investors to be able to look to pass these things down through their estate, what they can pass on to their heirs. And that, to me, that goes back to being able to provide a good life for your family, and not a good life in a material aspect, but being able to have the funds to get them resources to stuff to expand their mind and learn. And if they want to go get an education, be able to help with that so they can get a leg up and be able to give back to our community. Again, the more money we have flowing in our community, the better our community will be. Because if the money's not here, it will be somewhere else. So I think real estate is a great vehicle, and it's part of a strategy. Again, it's not 100% in real estate per se, although I know a lot of people that are, but you can get positive monthly cash flow, and you can have an asset that's appreciating. So you're creating cash flow over here and you're building wealth over there. And that's not just in and you can do it with your own home too. Your own home should appreciate in value. And if you're paying it down or if it's paid off, you've got that spread between either what you owe and what it's worth. But investment properties can do so many different things for you. And you're not going to get that type of a return on your 401k. Matter of fact, to our earlier comment about if the market declines and appreciates, you still control the asset. As long as you're making the mortgage payment, if the value drops in half, you're still making the mortgage payment. You still own the asset. It's not worth as much as it was. Your 401k goes down or a company goes bankrupt, you're out. It's gone. You can't go back. So that's one of the things that I have always liked about real estate is that tangible factor. I can put my hands on it. I can stand on it. And I control the asset as long as I'm making the payments.
Yeah, and I like that you brought up the tax implications too, because you can lend against it tax-free.
Oh, yeah.
Which is phenomenal, especially when you start building yourself a big portfolio.
Yeah.
It's amazing the opportunity you have. What I love about it is because, like, this is our tax code. Right. Whoever wrote the tax code was smart.
Right.
They want to grow the economy, and this is how you grow economies. Yeah. You give the money to people who know how to use it.
Absolutely.
And if it's the person who is building syndications to build, let's say, luxury apartment buildings downtown, there's a lot of people who want that service.
Absolutely.
That's how we get those things.
They wouldn't build it if there wasn't an appetite and a demand for it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that goes back to what you had told me before about why it's so important to create generational wealth, is because, you know, you're creating a better community, you're creating a better valley.
Right. Well, and I've never had somebody come to me and say, Paul, I've got all the money I need. I don't need any more. I'm full. Nobody's ever said that. So I don't think you can ever have enough. I know they say money isn't everything, but when you don't have it, it's everything. So being able to have a better life, being able to retire, you know, it's sad to see somebody work their entire life to realize I can't retire, or try to retire and realize I don't have enough money and they have to go back to work.
Yeah. Or to be able to give in the way they want to give. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm sure they hurt just as much as everybody else, and to not be able to give, let's say, to your kids, your grandkids, or to your church or your community, you know, the list goes on, you know, and I'm sure that affects people too.
Well, and I think for some people, even a step further, what do you want your legacy to be?
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Jonna Weber, the founder of the Boise Real Estate Investor Network. Thanks for being a listener of our Boise REIN Show, where our incredible pro members share their personal stories and areas of expertise with our listeners. If you're enjoying our show, you are going to love our Boise REIN community. Our mission is to inspire, connect, and equip you to create wealth and freedom for yourself and your family. We invite you to join us as a member at Boise REIN today at boiserein.com.
Paul, thank you for coming on today.
Well, thank you for the opportunity.
It's been a pleasure. It's great to hear your insights. They always say follow the money, and I feel like you've got a good pulse on where some of that money is going, so we appreciate your insights. But before you leave, what's one piece of advice you would give to our listeners today that would get them closer to their dreams tomorrow?
You know, something that I've heard repeated over and over and over again is your net worth and your network is your net worth. And they say most likely your income and your outcome are going to be very closely aligned with the 5 people you're closest to. So we are social creatures by nature. We live in communities. Choose a good community to surround yourself with. And not just from a monetarily standpoint, an investment standpoint. Be with people who are going to push you and empower you. So, join a book club. Get involved in things that you have an interest in and that will stimulate you, but people who are doing it well. Because why do something if you're not going to try to be great at it? So I think that's so important. And it's not the quantity of people, it's the quality. Like I said, that's why they say your net worth is usually associated with the 5 people that you network the most or the closest with. So yeah, find a mentor, find a network, find some people, get off your phone, get out from behind your computer, engage with people. That is where things happen. And so just engage with people, but find a good group of people.
I love that. Paul, I can't even add anything to that. This was phenomenal. It's perfect. I'm going to take some of your advice. So thank you.
I should start taking my own advice. So.
Well, if people want to reach out to you, do you have anywhere they could easily reach out?
Absolutely. I keep it real simple. Probably the best way to reach me is just send me an email. And that's boiselender@gmail.com. It doesn't get much simpler than that. And if anybody watching this wants to get together, if you want to grab coffee, you want to hop on a phone call, whatever, and you want to talk about real estate financing, be happy to do that. If I don't know, I'd be happy to point you to somebody who does.
Yeah, you take the friction out of it. You make it easy. I love
try.
That. Well, we'll also keep all of your info in the show notes as well for anybody listening. So, Paul, thanks again. It's been an absolute pleasure. And everybody out there, thank you for listening. You're the reason why we do this, to build that community like what we've been talking about today. And we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you guys. We appreciate you and we love working with you every single day. If you like the show, feel free to give us a thumbs up. If you want to follow along, feel free to subscribe. And we'll see you guys next time.